Welcome back. We're continuing our tour of the garden here in Norfolk, and just wanted to show you this fantastic scabious. It's been flowering now for several months, and actually I haven't been very good at deadheading it this year because the garden's grown so well with all the rain, but actually the seed heads are really cute, and they look really nice in cut flower arrangements, but it's just flowered and flowered. It's been really good value plant. It's a giant sort of off-white scabious. And definitely worth growing if you've got the space for it. It does tend to spread out quite a lot. As I said in the earlier video, September's definitely all about the daisies, and it's lovely to see the oxeye daisies that we cut back early in this season are coming back into flower. I think it's going to be a really good autumn in the garden. I love seeing these colourful apples on the trees in September. I think this variety might be called Katie. I think we planted it because it was similar to my name, but actually it's a beautiful, beautiful apple. It's so welcome sight at this time of year. Quite a lot of jobs to do in the garden at this time of year. This is a rose generous gardener, and it's actually ready for deadheading. It's been flowering now since about May, and to keep it in flower, really, I need to get up there and get those hips off the top. Because if I keep deadheading it, this rose will flower really through until Christmas if it's mild. It comes out with these lovely pink buds, and they open up into this beautiful flower. It runs nearly over, and then they fade to virtually white on the bush. So it's really beautiful, beautiful rose to have in the garden. This one's about 8-9 feet tall. It's regarded as a short climber, but actually this year it's put on so much growth. Another very welcome sight in the garden in September is these beautiful rose hips on the Rose of Rugosa. Again, this has grown incredibly well, and we have lots of these beautiful red hips. It's important not to deadhead your Rose of Rugosa, because really the flowers are quite underwhelming, but really it's the hips that you grow Rose of Rugosa for. Just look at that. They're about 1.5 inches across, and autumn wouldn't be autumn without this spectacular daisy. It's just starting to come into flower. It's actually taken over virtually this whole border. It's in a bit of shade at the moment, so you can't see it as well. Some years it doesn't cope well. It doesn't cope well with drought, but this year that hasn't been a problem, and so we're going to get an absolutely spectacular display of this daisy this year. One of my absolute favourite plants in the garden at this time of year is this wonderful Verbena benaris. I just love the way it stands. It's so tall. These are up to about 7 feet this year with the rain. And what I like about them is they can come up through other plants because they don't have that much leaf on them. The insects love them. They're always covered in bees, and they self-seed abundantly, so you get lots of baby plants. Another very welcome sight in the garden in September is when the roses come back into flower like this one has. I deadheaded the roses earlier in the year. Quite a lot of them now are putting on their second flush. It's not as spectacular as the first flush, but it's certainly a very welcome sight. The blooms on the second flush tend to be smaller than the first, but I think this is just wonderful, the colour on this one. And here's the first of my dahlias. My dahlias haven't done as well this year. I think it's probably because I tend to overplant. I probably need a dedicated dahlia border because they're just getting overwhelmed by the other plants in the area. So I may need to move quite a few of them. They haven't done as well this year. And no autumn garden tour would be complete without this. This is a sedum autumn joy, and it's a beautiful plant. It flowers at this time of year, end of August, beginning of September. This year, because we've had so much rain, it's not been such a good year for them, and they've actually overgrown and they've gone over. When it's a drier summer, they actually form a much sturdier plant and they don't go over like this. But if you have a look at here, it's just covered in bees. The bees are really good bee-friendly plants, and it gives them lots of nectar and pollen late in the season. So it's a really good one if you want to feed the bees. It's also really easy to propagate from splitting. We split ours in the spring and propagate them, and in fact we've done quite a bit of propagation this year and planted a new area. Another very welcome sight in the garden at this time of the year is this verbascum. I didn't plant these verbascum, they just seed themselves around the garden. It seems to be a wildflower, but again, I kept it back early in the season and it's put up another spike of flowers. And here's my sort of baby sedum hedge. I propagated these in the spring by splitting the adult plants, and I've planted them along here. So next year, it'll be interesting to see how they do, because these are all babies at the moment. It's lovely though, they've actually flowered, though it's only their first year. They're very low key compared to the parents. And we'll finish with this absolute showstopper, the daisy. I've been growing this daisy now for, oh my goodness, as long as I can remember. My dad had it in his garden and he gave it to me when I got married, which is about 37 years ago. And I've grown it in every house, every garden since. I've taken some with me. It's really easy to propagate. It's done really well this year because we've had a lot of rain. And I just love it. It grows to about 5 foot. It is a little susceptible to drought, so if you have a dry summer, you need to water it. But it's just a total joy in the garden in September. It starts flowering in August, some years I deadhead it religiously, and that keeps it flowering. But this year there's so much flower, I haven't kept on top of the deadheading, and actually the spent heads are still really attractive, so I may just leave them on. Oh, and just to finish now, last plants I'm going to show you is my Japanese anemones. Again, because there's been so much rain, they're leaning quite heavily at the moment, and I do need to come out and deadhead them. But again, it's a really good plant for the autumn garden. Gives you lots of flowers. If you keep deadheading them, they keep flowering. And actually, if on a mild year, we've had Japanese anemones flowering right up to Christmas, if we deadhead them and feed them. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you have any questions or any comments, please pop them in the comments. If you enjoy our videos, please like and subscribe. It helps us to help keep making the videos. Anyway, bye for now. Thank you. Bye.